still can't get the images out of my head. I was nowhere near the explosion, but it was as if I was there. More than 300,000 people were homeless. Tens of thousands injured or maimed. And by the end of it, 211 were dead. In a flash, their world just vanished. An accident caused a blaze in a fireworks warehouse on the port, which then spread to a connecting building, causing 2,700 tons of ammonium nitrate to simply explode. Was it an accident? Or criminal negligence? All I could do was stare as the disaster and compounding human calamity unfolded on my TV screen.
This is the first time I actually see the place. We kind of lost all the machines, all the furniture is gone. I'm quite concerned about the structure.
I think the reality at the moment is that Lebanon is heartbroken. It's a society that is deep in grief, and I think we have to start from understanding that. And I think actually President Emmanuel Macron, with his visit, really struck the right tone of empathy. Beirut is not just a city to the Lebanese people, or to any of us who love Lebanon. When you leave Beirut, whether it's for 10 minutes or 10,000 years, you feel it calling you back. And I think that's what's really been heartbreaking for people, this sense that, they've been hit right there.
Looking into the eyes and faces of our brothers and sisters here in Lebanon, what I want to say to you is that I have felt a deep sadness, but also a sense of solidarity. Our futures and our destinies are tied together because of our history, because of our shared past, culture, dreams.
I was very grateful to see Macron on the streets amongst the people immediately after the tragedy. It demonstrated a compassion and an understanding that no other world leader, not even our own leaders, displayed.
France will never give up. France will never give up on Lebanon, because Lebanon has been hit at the very heart of its nation. But with the beating heart of Lebanon is also the heart of France that has been struck.
The explosion took me reeling back more than 40 years. Back to the days of civil war that raged for 15 years, killing more than 250,000 people. We've always had a troubled existence. We're wedged between Israel to the south and Syria to the west and north, which prompted a myriad of issues and destabilising occupations by both these neighbours. With Syria invading in 1976 and Israel in 1982. My family, like so many families, was forced to flee in the 1970s. My parents chose Australia as our new home. I grew up in Sydney, where I often felt ashamed to say I was Lebanese because of the stigma the war had created. In the 1980s, I started a career in journalism that lasted nearly 20 years. my job took me back to Lebanon. And while we were still finding our way out of the shadows of war, to my surprise, I found the people full of hope and hospitality. I made a film about reclaiming my heritage. And that felt like coming home. Years on, I returned to make another film. This time around, I wanted to include the expats in this story, so I travelled to cities around the world speaking to Lebanese everywhere. With 16 million expats living outside the country and only 4.5 million in Lebanon, it was clear their contribution to Lebanon's renaissance was vital.
I left Lebanon in '76. At the second year of the war.
My dad came here in the very early 1900s.
Nobody liked to stay away from Lebanon and from his family.
It's definitely gut-wrenching, but heartwarming at the same time.
Obviously, I have the dream to return. That's crazy, but I do have the dream to return.
With this new film, I thought I was going to be sharing the next chapter of our journey, telling you a happy story, a phoenix rising from the ashes tale about our amazing recovery, growth, and transformation. But I was wrong. Never in my wildest dreams did I think I'd be telling you this story.
The Lebanese are not living a happy life in terms of electricity, in terms of water, in terms of sustainability.
So many years after the end of the war, we still don't have electricity. The issue of garbage is not solved. The issue of environment is catastrophic.
My God, we're in the 21st century. They still have this problem of garbage. Go smell our country, and you'll understand.
We have to buy bottles of water, which costs more than petrol now. You know that. This is more expensive than a bottle of gas.
I want to go to a public beach. I want to drive on better roads. I want to know that civil marriage is okay.
I don't know, I have so many dreams for Lebanon, like having a subway. We don't have public transportation, which is one of the basic things we should have.
Corruption. We have to stop it.
Everything is corrupt, Daizy. Everything is rotten. Corruption is eating up everything in the country.
They are not working. No one is working for Lebanon as Lebanon. Everyone is working for himself.
Honestly, it's a very hard question at a very hard moment of time where I don't have faith in the country anymore.
This is a country that lives with no single degree or sign of accountability. And because there's no accountability, so nobody can stop the corruption.
أولاً موضوع الفساد في لبنان موضوع مثل ما ذكرتي بلغ مستوى لا يطاق.
صحيح. لأول مرة أنا بقول كل الفساد اللي أنا بساويه هو على حساب الرئيس الحبيب.
إذا بقول لك إنه القضاء ببلادي أنا بلبنان معصوم عن الفساد بكون عم بخطئ مع ذاتي ومعك ومع المشاهدين.
ما حدا يعمل حاله بريء. رأس الفساد الثنائي الشيعي.
We are all in a fake agreement.
The one thing that is universal is that corruption is killing this country. What do you plan to do about it?
I know I have a problem.
How did things get so bad? I had to find out.
This started at the end of the war when the new system was put in place. The warlords had to be brought to the table, and they were brought with promises of public money to be given to them. Those were the corruption years. And unfortunately, we saw a surge in mismanagement and corruption, which led us at the end to this very tragic situation.
When the war ended in 1990, there was a lot to be grateful for. Not since Lebanon's independence from France in 1943 had we felt such relief. Although Syrian forces continued to occupy most of the country and Israeli troops were still holed up in the south. Then in 1992, we got our first post-Civil War Prime Minister, the construction tycoon Rafiq Hariri. He promised to rebuild Beirut and the country, and some of us naively believed he was our saviour. But as hindsight has shown, that's when all today's problems started. Despite Hariri's positive contribution, he and other members of parliament participated in the corruption with Syria's blessing, and Syria's political and military meddling for another 15 years stoked corruption. By the time Hariri finally wisened to Syria's real motives and demanded their withdrawal, it was too late. Corruption was firmly entrenched, and then he was swiftly eliminated. Although Syria was forced to withdraw a month later, after the whole world rose up against them, they didn't leave with any dignity. Instead, they released a reign of terror that lasted more than a decade, systematically assassinating our loudest, brightest, and most nationalistic voices.
The assassination of Rafiq Hariri was a turning point on all levels, because I believe that this event shaped even more the sentiment of belonging to Lebanon.
With respect to the assassination of your brother, do you believe he was assassinated by the Syrians?
All the leaders who were defending Lebanon's sovereignty were assassinated.
I cannot forget on the 14th of March 2005 when he said his oath, the oath that he wanted the Lebanese Christians and Muslims to be united forever, defending Lebanon. How he was looking at the people from all over the country coming here to the Martyrs Square and asking for the freedom of Lebanon. He was a journalist, and a real journalist.
I got to tell you, when I heard the news, I was in Australia. One of the reasons I wanted to meet you, because you don't see that in journalism today.
It's not a role that you expect as an ambassador to be spending your time doing, going to a lot of funerals. I spent quite a lot of time in this country paying condolences.
Losing these heroes left a vacuum at the helm of our nation that over the next 15 years was filled by opportunistic politicians tied to the complicated sectarian power-sharing system who moved swiftly, jostling to secure influence and their vested interests. It literally became a battle between those fighting over Lebanon and those fighting for Lebanon, with a narcissistic goal superseding that of the greater good, and fear-driven greed pulling the strings. While all this chaos and suffering was going on, the real Lebanon that I loved and believed in endured.
country.
Very different, though, to what you hear or you
Totally
expect.
different. Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Well, it's the media. Reality is totally different. We party just like anyone else. You know, we're in our coffee shops, we're in our restaurants. We live a very European lifestyle.
There is a secret in Lebanon. The Lebanese people live the life, and they doesn't care about what happened. We don't stop. We don't stop. It will not change our mood. It will not change our hobby. Okay, that's the secret in Lebanon.
This was the Lebanon that seduced and thrilled me. A sophisticated Lebanon, famous the world over by those who've had the fortune to experience it, and whose people effortlessly glide between the official languages of Arabic, French, and English. A place many stars love to return to.
Beirut, it's been a privilege and a pleasure to play for you. God bless you. Thank you.
It's been so many years wanting to come to Lebanon, and finally, tonight, my wish comes true.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ricky Martin!
I'm frustrated because I don't speak Arabic, but I was raised Lebanese. I was raised my whole life Lebanese.
Lebanon is a country of contradictions. I said it before, you know, you have the good and the ugly, everything in a very charming combination. The front row looks very much like Monaco, and you go a little bit back in the country, you still see the signs of the war, but it's an amazing flair. It deserves so much better, so much better.
This was the Lebanon I fell for so many years earlier. A complex Lebanon that captivated me. Maybe because, historically, this tiny patch of earth had witnessed more turmoil and triumph than any other piece of dirt on the planet. Even now, recent converts and admirers still sing its praises.
Dear Lebanon, I know that in reality, you've been around thousands of years and were trading and writing long before my ancestors. Your mountains, your valleys, your coasts are the envy of all of us. You may have difficult neighbors and a tendency to fatalism, but your location and your diversity put you at the hub between continents and cultures. Your history gives you a resilience and a free spirit that others in the region would die for and are dying for. You're also the most exceptional hosts. Whatever your religion, there are few more beautiful sounds than the intermingling of the call to prayer and church bells. You gave me the adventure of my life and plenty of reasons to fear for it. You gave me extraordinary friends, and you took some away. They say that Lebanon's a graveyard for idealism. Not mine. You're so much better than you admit. You're the world's best networkers in a century that will be run by networks. Your writers, your musicians, your thinkers, your business people have conquered the world again and again and again. You have an impressive ability to absorb hardships, yet you rarely confront the causes of them. You invest more than any country in the education of your youth, yet they feel excluded from changing the country for the better. You've become a beacon for women's rights, yet only elect a tiny handful of those women to parliament. You were the first country in the region to stand up against dictatorship and tyranny in the 21st century Middle East. Yet your voice in calling for your own rights and those of others seems to have fallen silent, and in too many cases has been silenced.
نحن شعب مقاوم كل عمرنا، يعني إرادة الحياة عنا فوق كل اعتبار، بنحب نعيش رغم إنه الظروف معكستنا. بتطلع بوجه اللبناني بتلاقي الدمعة بعينه والبسمة عتم. هالكونتراست نحن عايشينه كل يوم. الموت عايش حدنا ونحن بدنا نكفي. الشعب الوحيد اللي بتلاقيه عطول عنده أمل رغم إنه ما في ولا بصيص أمل حواليه، وهذا شيء موقفنا على إجرينا من ال 75 لهلا. هو إرادة العيش بداخلنا.
So were you born in this area, in this village?
I born here, I grew up here. To be born next to the sea, even like your school is next to the sea. You fight to sit next to the window to see the sea every day. And then you go after the school to go to the beach to fish or to surf or to windsurf.
I left 42 years ago, but Lebanon never let me.
What is it about the village that makes you want to go back?
Such a small country, and yet the experience going there is so rich.
It was very enheartening going to the village during the weekend to hang out with my aunt in Kusba. And this is where I basically learned to love completely Lebanon.
We have a history from a long time.
They're extreme in everything, but it's fun. You feel alive.
It gave me everything that I am proud of. The family upbringing to the country's upbringing, you know? To me, that was what made me.
Every time I hear Lebanese, my heart beats. Something about Lebanese, you cannot export it.
Il y a cet accueil chaleureux et surtout cette joie de vivre. Malgré tout ce qu'ils ont subi, malgré les guerres, malgré les problèmes économiques.
I like the food, I like the culture, I like the people, I like the music, I like the smell.
My childhood friends, I miss them. I miss the apple orchard. I miss the smell of the yasmin flowers.
Where people were honest, beautiful, loving.
Visiting friends, parents, go to places like I used to go when I was a child. It's in the blood. Everything, roots, and even now when I go back for holidays, I prefer to spend my time in my village.
I love Lebanon. You ask me why, I don't know. But my heart thing, I love Lebanon. I love everything in Lebanon. I cannot tell you what I feel for this country.
This was my Lebanon. The Lebanon that kept calling me back. It was these warm and open people, filled with humility and generosity.
So great to see you again. It's a special piece.
And the food. Our sacred dinner table. And food. Lots of food that always brought us together. No matter where, no matter who, no matter when.
What do you love about Lebanon?
Besides the women. There's something that Beirut has when you go out of a night in Beirut that not many places on earth have. Yeah, it's beyond energy. There's something beyond energy.
شو ما بدك بتلاقي بقلب لبنان. وأهم بوينت إنه هو جاي النقطة الأساسية بالكرة الأرضية ككل.
Everybody's so welcoming. Everybody's so generous. And when I travel, I don't see that.
I was brought up here and I was shaped here, and I feel some kind of connection here that I don't think I would find somewhere else.
You pay a lot for comfort here. It costs you a lot in order to be comfortable.
And deep down, they are happy people. They are happy people, but they want more from their country.
You're very critical of Lebanon.
I think I'm passionate about Lebanon. That's why we're very critical about it. Of course, we are very attached to Lebanon. That's why we are here. That's why we are suffering. Otherwise, it's very easy to leave, and we would have left a long time ago. My suffering in Lebanon is not about the economy. It's more about the quality of life. Our mountains are polluted. Our sea is polluted.
How do you feel about your children growing up in Lebanon?
Encourage my child to leave at some point. I had to leave several times because of war, and I had different hopes, things that happened previously where I hoped that things would change, but it never really changed.
When I changed the topic to the upcoming parliamentary elections, which were less than a week away, things got very heated.
Are you going to vote? I'm still considering it.
Are you voting?
For sure.
I'm not voting.
Why?
Ooh. I have to vote in Tripoli. That's the problem.
Tell us why,
Yeah,
Omar. Seriously, is it really about distance?
Because we can order
Inconvenience?
I think it's inconvenience. First, it's inconvenient. Yeah.
So you have a business here, so you're affected directly.
Eventually, I'll leave for sure. I think I would want to be in a place that is a bit more organized, a bit more systematic and stuff.
So if Lebanon was more organized and systematic...
I think it would be a country where you'd want to stay, you know.
So if you have a chance to vote to implement more organization and structure, wouldn't you want to do that?
I've still got a week to think about it. All right.
I think what bothers me about not voting is it's kind of telling them you're safe.
Yeah.
Go ahead, do whatever you want.
You've been interviewing different kind of people. Do you think we're united? Do you think we...
What I'm hearing around the country is people want more order, more structure, a system they can rely on and depend on. And then when they're asked to vote for it, step up and vote for it, it's too far, can't be bothered, nothing's going to change. What's the point?
I might end up voting.
But what I'm saying to you is, do you not feel like you're giving away your power by not exercising your right? I mean, that's democracy, isn't it?
From 2013 to 2018, they stole our voice. What we expect people to do is to go and vote because we have now a chance. These elections is about saying that it's not okay. It's just not okay to do whatever you want to do and then expect people to go and vote for you again.
But this is exactly what happened. Omar, like most people, didn't end up voting on May 6, 2018. So nothing changed. Nothing.
We have the same politicians, the same ones who did the war, the same ones who killed. They're still here. They are governing this country. And these Lebanese are still voting for them. Which is what? Are you fucking crazy? These are the ones who killed you.
The biggest problem we have right now in Lebanon is that Lebanese people don't believe that they can make a change. It's so well entrenched in their psyche that there's nothing you can do.
I'm part of a generation that got very disappointed in that the ousting of the Syrian regime did not produce local reform and better governance, and so shifted to work on things like electoral reform and access to information and women's political and economic participation.
These elections had one of the lowest voter turnout numbers in history, with only around 49.7% casting a ballot. The most disappointing statistic was the youth figure. They make up nearly 30% of registered voters, but only 30% of them turned out to vote. The numbers were equally disappointing among the millions of expats who had been demanding the right to vote for years. But out of an estimated 10 million eligible voters, only 83,000 registered and a shocking 47,000 voted. In all fairness, many people consciously decided not to vote because their only option was the corrupt incumbent. But for the majority, there was a reasonable alternative. But we silenced ourselves by not voting.
I don't think at this stage that however you're voting is going to make any difference.
Unfortunately not, no.
Unfortunately not.
I won't be voting this year, no.
Okay, I didn't vote.
No.
I don't believe the voting process is legitimate. I think there is flaws in the system, and I'm not going to be involved with that.
Our political system is actually the single most unique thing about Lebanon, but also the crux of all its ails. Why? Because only in Lebanon does your religion determine what role and consequently how much power you wield in government. And this, in fact, is institutionalized sectarianism.
Lebanon has one of the most complex political systems in the world. The tiny country is made up of 18 different sects, and its political system is designed to give nearly all of them a say. Since Lebanon's independence in 1943, the country's top 3 leadership positions have been divided between the 3 main sects. Lebanon's president must be a Maronite Christian, the prime minister a Sunni Muslim, and the Speaker of the House a Shia Muslim. Seats in parliament are divided equally between Christians and Muslims and proportionally divided among the different denominations within each religion. Government posts and public sector positions are also divided among the majority sects. This system, however, has created entrenched divisions between all 18 sects, as each sect has used their position to only serve the interests of their sect and themselves instead of the national interest. Hence, today's stalemate and crisis.
This political system has proved that it is a total failure. It cannot change anything. Even if all political leaders have very good intentions and want to solve issues, the decision-making issue is very difficult because of this sectarian situation. And this system will not be changed from the top.
Here's the point. You know the expression, if it ain't broke, don't fix it? I have another one. If you can't fix it, don't break it. Okay? And that's the situation here. If somebody came up with a way to fix Lebanon without breaking it, I'd say fine. But if you tread too harshly, you're going to disrupt what is a very delicate balance in the country right now.
It's one of the few places in the Middle East that has enough of a mix of people, a balance of religions and groups, so that no single group can dominate all the others.
The real corruption is within the political system, it's inherent, it's built in. First, we have to change our confessional political system that is given protection to businessmen in Lebanon, the big names, and some of the political leaders.
There's a lot of business people who are in bed, so to speak, with politicians.
Actually, the business is part of them. It's not that the private has built ties with them. It's that they have become the public and the private at the same time. They have ousted the other players. It was totally taken over by new entrepreneurs who are the guys of the system.
They're frontmen.
They're frontmen, exactly. There are plenty of companies where you would see absolutely no name of any politically exposed person, but they would be acting on their behalf. They would be frontmen, as you previously said. It is systemic. This system has to change.
بعد القيادات السياسية ما بدها إصلاح، بدهم يضل الأمور معلقة لأنه هن بعيشوا سلطان. أنا اللي حكيته بعرف بدي أدفع ثمن، أنا بعرف يعني هاي بضرني، بس أنا بدي أحكي الحقيقة. تعبنا.
I don't think that I need to mention it. Everybody knows now.
Who they are. I'm
They
just
know
giving
them,
you
yeah.
permission if
Yeah,
you choose to.
Yeah, thank you. No, but everybody know them. The people have seen. So it's enough. It's enough.
It is kind of a mafia, a cartel that is ruling and controlling, different affiliations to religion, to money, to tribal family. With this, Lebanon cannot progress. It is the change that the politicians does not want to happen. It's the change of the system. It is an establishment that should collapse.
Prime Minister, I'm here on a journey to ask questions and to seek answers for myself, but also for Lebanese around the world and in Lebanon. So my questions might be a little bit direct.
The more direct is, the better it is.
I want to take you back to one thing you said. There are 5 or 6 players running this country. Can you name them?
Yes, I can name the 5 or 6 players running the country, and it's very well known to everyone. You have 2 Shia leaders, and you have
name them.
You want names?
I want names.
Like Said Hassan Nasrallah.
Yes.
The Speaker of the House, Nabil Berri.
Yes.
You have then General Michel Aoun, and the Shadow President's son-in-law. This is one party. And then you
Gibran
have...
Basir.
Yes, then you have President Hariri, the Sunnis, and you have Dr. Samir Jaja, and you have Walid Jumblat too. So these are the major players.
The one thing that is universal amongst all Lebanese of all religious sects, factions, beliefs, internationally and locally, is that corruption is killing this country. What do you plan to do about it?
The tackling of corruption is something that must happen in Lebanon, and we have to have a unified vote on it in the government, in parliament, everywhere. The problem we face in Lebanon is, especially after the assassination of my father, is we had a void, and this void created more corruption and instability in the country. And the war in Syria has affected Lebanon tremendously. We need to have a very stable environment in Lebanon, and we need to fight this kind of corruption in every single sector of the government. How do we do that is by making sure our Ministry of Justice does its job, and most of the administration, they do their job. I believe that with President Aoun today, we have a chance in doing that. I think he's a president who wants to do that. I want to do that. Speaker of the House wants to do that. And I think everybody understands also today that we cannot continue the same way we used to work.
You mentioned 2 very important names, President Aoun and President Berri. Excuse me, but the people of Lebanon claim that it is this group of people, including yourself, including Walid Jumblat, including Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah, that are the group controlling the power and preventing improvement.
We're not trying to prevent you. What you need to understand that Lebanon, I think, I don't see any country that passed what we passed through and is still stable. We have 1.5 million Syrian refugees in the country. We have 200,000 Palestinian refugees in the country. We've had devastating divisions in the country politically. What causes corruption is the void. When you have a lot of administrations where you don't have people are responsible for this administration, that creates corruption. So we need to put the right people in the right places. And I believe we started doing that.
The guardians of the temple have taken over the system, and there is huge pressure on any player who is trying to make things evolve the right way.
To give you an indication of how things work in this country, the garbage crisis is so illustrated because it was so easy to fix, and they refused to fix it because the prime minister's party and probably the prime minister himself benefit from this incredibly corrupt garbage contract, the most expensive garbage disposal contract in the world per kilo, per pound for garbage disposal. The garbage contract of Lebanon is a state secret. It is still to this day not published. And none of Hariri's rivals in the government would leak it because they all have equally dirty, bigger contracts from which they benefit. So they drew ranks.
I believe that the coming 4 years are extremely decisive in the history of Lebanon, especially fighting corruption. We have to fight corruption, and we have to take very hard decisions. And this is going to be a very difficult battle.
It's going to be a difficult battle because the forces that quarrel during the day are getting together on the same table at night to divide
the winnings, the spoils
of corruption.
It was basically decided one thing at a time around the table. They were basically saying, okay, I'm taking this, and because it's a big pie, you're gonna take a share and you're gonna take another share and so on. And we've seen that in electricity, we've seen that in the waste management issues, we've seen that in many public enterprises, even in ministries.
سعيدة مش عم نلحق على معالي وزير الداخلية إنه هذا المشروع يخزل عين عنه. يعني كل تصريح أقوى من الثاني وكل زحطة أحلى من الثانية.
إيه مظبوط. أنا أفسدني أولاً الرئيس الراحل الشهيد رفيق الحريري، وأسعدني ثانياً بالنيابة ولفترة طويلة بالوزارة الله يوجه له الخير الرئيس سعد الحريري قبل ما ظروفه تصعب. صحيح؟ لأول مرة أنا بقول كل المصاريف، كل الرحلات، كل الطيارات، كل الأوتيلات، كل الفساد اللي أنا بساويه هو على حساب الرئيس الحريري.
This country is screaming for somebody to take that lead and unite the parliament, unite the ministers, unite the religious groups, and unite the people and eliminate corruption.
Anti-state phenomenon.
Anti-state phenomenon. What does that mean?
That means you cannot have a state with corruption. First priority would be fight corruption.
بال 2015 ل 24 على 24 وبنقول مبروك للبنانيه وان شاء الله ايامهم من هلا ورايح بيطلعوا من العتمه ويطلعوا على الضوء.
يعني بتجي ساعتين وبتنقطع 6 ومرات بتنقطع من الساعه 10 ل 10 ونص على بكره، يعني بالليل على بكره.
عم يصير عنا تعطيل كثير يعني بالبراد بالتلفزيون بكل شيء. يعني اخرتها شو ما عرفاني.
وعدونا بال 2013 وعدونا بال 2014، هلا نحن بال 2015 السيد جبران باسيل 24 صارت عم تروح بال 24 18 20 ساعة عم تروح.
Do you know that we've paid already $35 billion on electricity and we don't have electricity?
Who did you pay it to?
the state to fix it.
Losses became very high starting in 2009, 2008, when the inefficiencies at EDL became absolutely huge. And we had, for something like a decade, losses of about $2 billion a year.
The crazy floating power stations off the coast that are the world's most expensive electricity, that are usually brought in after natural disasters like the tsunami for like 6 months until a regular power plant can be built. They've been anchored off the Lebanese coast providing this incredibly expensive electricity because no one can agree on where to build a new power plant because of who will get to staff the jobs and steal the proceeds. Where is the contract for that? It exists. It's a Turkish company. They have a contract or they wouldn't be here. Has any Lebanese seen it? No. It's another
Somebody
secret.
in the Lebanese system is making a lot of money out of that contract?
For sure. For sure. More than somebody.
This is a scandal anywhere in the world on any standards. This is used. In banana republics, you wouldn't see anything like that.
First priority would be fight corruption. First priority would be fight corruption.
If you're all in agreement about it, is there not a way to come together as a cabinet?
No, we are all in a fake agreement.
EDL, again, is symptomatic, but it's not the only case. It's big in size. This is why everybody sees it. But the unfortunate truth is that more or less everything is about the same behavior in this system.
Another reason why there's no electricity is because one single incredibly powerful, corrupt sectarian leader refuses to allow any kind of electricity plants to be built because he wants to continue embezzling money from the existing diesel and generator mafia in the country. So it's a political problem. It's not a technical problem why there's no electricity.
شو صاير مؤخرا بينك وبين نائب وليد جنبلاط؟ كل العالم بتقول وين هالمزود اللي عم يجي على لبنان وما عم يوصل للبنانيين؟
أول شيء هو صاحب شركة مازوت بيعرف أكثر مني، لأنه هو بيجيب مازوت، بيجيب بنزين.
هو ينفي إنه يكون عنده مباشرة أي علاقة.
هو عنده شركة مع هيبكو، هو له 40% منها. وهن أخذوا كوجيكو بقي له 40%. بينما نحكي الأمور مثل ما هي.
So for decades, this system was used to finance corrupt politicians and to finance the system. They've been looting the country for so long This is why the fiscal deficit is so huge.
The big corruption is through smuggling, avoiding taxation, avoiding customs. And there is now an effort from the government, from the president, to put in place structures to decrease this type of corruption. There is a law to fight money laundering, and corruption is money laundering, allowing us to freeze the funds.
Right.
So, and then we freeze the funds and we give the case to the judiciary. And it's up to the Lebanese courts to take the proper verdicts.
Of course, you know, there's a lot of gossip about how ministers and people get rich suddenly.
The bank is responsible to report to us doubtful operations. And when they do, even if the reports are concerning politically exposed personality, we do the investigation.
So if they don't invest their money in the Lebanese banks, could they invest the money externally and hide it that way?
In today's world, it's very difficult. Now, if there is cooperation from the bank with a customer, then it can happen. Now, mind you, no system in the world is 100% proof.
The smuggling of the $6 billion out of the country earlier this year after the revolutions, do we know which banks? Do we know which countries?
Here, I wish I could give you names, and I would have given you all the names and numbers, but there is banking secrecy in this country, unfortunately. The only part who knows what happens is either the banker that has transferred the money abroad or the central bank, and we're not getting the information from them. But obviously, yes, we can assume that the banks abroad that are accepting this money are somehow in collusion with those who are benefiting from that. Can you imagine how many politicians, how many MPs are shareholders, are board members of the banks? This is absolutely, a scandal when you have so much vested interests in the system. So they used insider trading operations for them to become billionaires, and they became billionaires.
Frankly, in Lebanon, we don't have till now real governance. Corruption is rampant, and incompetence is clear. We as Lebanese forces, we are trying to work on both these dimensions, but both these dimensions, they are huge.
ندمان اني انتخبت ميشيل عون، ندمان انه وصلنا لهون. اول شيء بس لما تصالحوا، بعدين بكتشف انه اول ما عملت التسويه وانتخبنا ميشيل عون كان في اتفاق انا ماني عارف عنه.
اللي هو
انه انت يا تيار الوطن الحر هالقد بتعين، وانا قوات اللبنانيه بعين هالقد من المسيحيين، وسعد الحريري ما عارف شيء. أجعجني بهذا الاتفاق في أفرقاء مسيحيين آخرين
أوكي.
ممكن تجي على هذه الحكومة.
مش بس إنه كمان معايير، كمان ما كان في معايير.
It was a historic, monumental event. When you decided to support the election of President Aoun, considering the history of the relationship, it was profound. I wanted to ask you what it was that made you decide that that was the right decision and to support that election.
We didn't have any hope that we could bring somebody from our political camp, okay? And the only alternative was General Aoun. It was a historical decision because until the last moment, many tried to convince us not to.
So are you still confident with your decision?
100%.
والتزمت بمحاربة الفساد بشراسة. معركة الفساد بدها تبدأ والتزمت مكافحة الفساد.
Have you been exposed to any evidence that links people to corrupt behavior?
I don't want to speak about corruption, but an issue where it's very clear that Lebanese laws were not accepted, were not applied. It's the issue of the Eden Bay resort. There have been a resort that was built in the Ramlet al-Baida beach, which is the last sand beach in Beirut area. The resort was built there, a building permit was given. And then, just after I was elected as a president of the order, the president of the republic asked me to do a report about the legality of the permit and the legality of the construction, because a lot of civil society groups were protesting about this project. So I did, and I discovered that there were eight major irregularities in the project. I submitted my report to the President of the Republic, and nevertheless, the construction continued, and the building was erected, and now it is operational.
Who owns Eden Resort?
A very strong economic, financial figure in Lebanon who has relationships
What sect?
with authorities. I
What
don't
sect?
want to enter into
Okay.
this.
I'll find out.
But he has protections.
Right.
But it's very clear that such a project couldn't have been built if there were no corruption at different levels of the administration.
And why didn't the president do anything about it?
I don't know.
If the president can't, who can?
Government documents seen by Reuters show that Lebanon's prime minister and president were reportedly warned of a possible major disaster in Beirut as late as July. The senior official wrote, "I warned them that this could destroy Beirut if it exploded."
فخامة الرئيس، حضرتك قلت انه ب20 تموز يعني تسلمتوا تقرير من الاجهزه المعنيه وكمجلس للدفاع الاعلى وحولتوها للمعنيين. حضرتك كرئيس هذه البلاد وايضا كقائد للقوات المسلحه، لماذا لم تبادر ويعني حضرتك توجه بامر مباشر بازاله هيدي المواد المتفجره؟
انا ماني مسؤول، ما بعرف وين محطوطه ولا بعرف شو درجة الخطورة، وما لي صلاحية اتعاطى بالمرفأ مباشرة. في تراتبية لازم تعرف واجباتها.
How do you react when your president has that sort of answer
The way I react is to come back to something I said previously. Who the hell is responsible? This is totally crazy.
Hezbollah is a broad-based political movement with a militia and a public structure. It is not some secret, shadowy terrorist group. One of the reasons why they are viewed with such alarm by their rivals is because they have more successfully gamed the system and they have more power. They don't have enough power to dominate the whole country, but they have more power than any other group, and they can't be stopped.
What is Hezbollah's position on corruption and what is it doing? Because everyone from Rais, Michel Aoun, Al-Hariri, كلهم, they say they're going to fight corruption.
أولاً موضوع الفساد في لبنان موضوع مثل ما ذكرتي بلغ مستوى لا يطاق. وهذا أمر يعني غير خافي على أحد ولا يمكن إخفاؤه. نحن بالمجلس النيابي من العام 92 بكل هذه المراحل بدورنا بالسلطة التنفيذية أو بدورنا بالمجلس النيابي لم نكن يوماً إلا جزءاً من مواجهة الفساد.
Beirut Airport, Beirut Port, and other ports of Lebanon. A loss for the Lebanese government because of evasion of at least $800 to $1 billion a year. That is the most conservative figures given by independent economists.
Where does that money go?
This money, the main player in this is Hezbollah.
Do they control those areas?
They control those areas, and this is getting an income of $200 to $300 million to them and the network that is controlling this. So, is this corruption or is this not corruption?
حدا يعمل حاله بريء. رأس الفساد الثنائي الشيعي. الثنائي الشيعي لو أراد اليوم لبنان بيصير جنة. هؤلاء أن ينظف البلد، تنظف الإدارة من الفساد يستطيعون اليوم بس لا يريدون لأنه أشربوا.
Why all this is happening? Because we have an external force which was Syria and which is today Iran through Hezbollah that is controlling all the political system.
You have a tremendous challenge, but it is the future of this country depends on dismantling the structure of corruption. So how do you propose to deal with this?
صحيح إنه في شبكة كانت حاكمة في لبنان ويمكن البعض منها ما زال مستمر، ولكن صحيح أيضاً إنه في وعي لكل هالأمور وفي قرار بالتصدي لهالأمور وفي نهج جديد أرساه هذا الرجل القوي الميثاقي اللي اسمه فخامة الرئيس عماد ميشيل عون. أنا عم بقول لك بكل صراحة تحدي كبير على وزارة العدل، يقع قسم كبير من المسؤولية، لأنه إذا عملتي قضاء تمعيد كلمة وينستون تشرشل الشهيرة بيكون كل شيء بخير إذا كان قضاء بلادي بخير. إذا بقول لك إنه القضاء ببلادي أنا بلبنان معصوم عن الفساد بكون عم بخطئ مع ذاتي ومعك ومع المشاهدين.
We are moving more and more toward a lawless state. And this is something that I mentioned when I was resigning. So when you put most of the decision makers in a political system above the law, there is no such thing as justice remaining.
Lebanon's quite a mafioso society. At the end of the day, the big guys get away with it. You know, there is impunity for those that can pay their way or bully their way or assassinate their way out of trouble.
It is not anymore an issue of how to fix electricity, how to fix waste, how to fix the economy and the bankruptcy. It is how to change the system. We need to get rid of the system, and we need to have a new elite taking over.
Out of the leaders in government today, the politicians in place today, is there anyone that you think has the right values and commitment for the country that is out?
I can't answer this question. I'm sorry. I absolutely can't answer this question.
Wouldn't be healthy for you?
Well, A, because I can't actually think of someone who fits your... I'm sorry to say.
I believe that in 4 years, if we do not fix ourselves, the people will revolt against us.
It didn't take 4 years. Only 15 months after my interview with Hariri, the people were on the streets. It was a Thursday, and the government had just wrapped up budget discussions, agreeing to a new tax on WhatsApp. Hariri delivered the news, and by that evening, everyone was on the street. And they all said, "Khalas. Enough."
نازلين اللي بعده، نحن مش نازلين كرمال واتساب، نحن نازلين كرمال كل شيء، كرمال المنزل، كرمال الأكل، كرمال الخبز، كرمال كل شيء.
The leaders are liars. They promised us reforms and change, but they did nothing.
We are so tired of the government, so tired of the corruption.
Nothing has been changed. No roads, no electricity, no water, no education for our children, nothing at all.
We are not Christians, we are not Muslims, we are not Druze, we are Lebanese, all of us. Shame on you for dividing us.
These politicians, they deserve to be in jail. Enough is enough.
As the days went on, the numbers continued to swell. Then 2 weeks later, Hariri announced his resignation.
I put my resignation in the hands of the president and all the Lebanese people.
And I honestly believed this was the start of the downfall of the entire political hierarchy. But I was wrong. The dissolution of one government only resulted in another being appointed a few months later. There was a shuffling of portfolios, but nothing really changed, because the same political elite that had created the crisis was still in charge. That's when the real revolution began. Around 2 million people, nearly half the population, left their homes, left their jobs, abandoned their comforts and their fears to come together in a united rejection of the status quo.
They should all resign so we can live and so those young, unemployed men can live instead of becoming robbers and thieves.
نحن من الضاحية أولاد حركة عمل وحسب الله ما عادش توسع فيكم ما عادش توسع فيكم على الحرامية وهلا شوفوا شغلكم.
يعني كلهم من رئيس الجمهورية، مجلس النواب، الحكومة، للفاسدين الكبار والصغار بهالبلد بالفعل لازم يفلوا كل العبيوت.
لازم هيدي بعد الانتفاضة كانت تطلع من زمان. بدنا نتنفس، بدنا عن جد بدنا حرية. كلهم يعني كلهم
All of them. That means all of them. This had become the catch cry of the revolution. The sleeping giant was finally waking up to the corrupt oligarchy that had seduced and abused everyone for so long. The feudal families and their cronies who'd exploited their public positions for personal profit, and others who'd failed in their public duty to expose and denounce the greedy and corrupt. These leaders, who we'd kept in power, we'd invested our trust and blind loyalty in for decades, had to go. كلهم يعني كلهم. And that's what it came down to, and always does, doesn't it? Greed, control, and power. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. At the same time this was all going on in Lebanon, tens of thousands of Lebanese immigrants, members of the 16 million strong Lebanese diaspora spread all around the world, were protesting across cities in their adopted homelands, calling on their governments to support democracy and the cry for justice, including me and my kids.
Hi, we're in Sydney and we're live at the Sydney demonstrations in solidarity with Lebanon.
We took to the streets of Sydney and demonstrated with thousands of fellow Lebanese Australians because we wanted the change for Lebanon just as much as they did. I went back to Beirut one more time to be with the revolutionaries on the streets of the rebellion. I wanted to show them by my actions how much their sacrifice meant to me and to all Lebanese living outside Lebanon. The burden they were carrying for all of us was truly humbling. With the benefit of hindsight, we know how 2020 panned out for all of us, with Mother Nature unleashing a pandemic that stopped the world. Fear of the virus diffused revolutions everywhere, including Lebanon, where the economic crisis that gripped the globe reached unprecedented heights, taking the country into the worst economic collapse in its history, causing a default on its foreign debt, the currency to crash, and poverty to skyrocket from 28% in 2019 to 55% in 2020.
The reason why people went to the streets is precisely because the banking sector had already frozen most of their assets. And when the central bank decided to start paying totally unreasonable interest rates to attract more dollars into the system. I mean, it was obvious that the situation would continue to deteriorate until we reached default.
And then, as if all that wasn't enough, came the king hit. Which brings us right back to where I started this story. After the blast, another Prime Minister resigned, and a few other cabinet ministers went with him. But what happened next was uncanny, and sadly, sardonic. Hariri was reinstalled as Prime Minister. It was as if fate was playing a cruel joke, because it came only days before the one-year anniversary of the revolution. The old band had reformed for an encore performance. It was like the past 12 months had achieved nothing except greater hardship and poorer conditions for everyone other than the people causing it.
I did not expect that you and I would be talking today about things that we'd be talking about. I thought we'd be in a different place. And I'm finding myself, we're back to square one. I mean, I can't believe it's that Hariri's name is being circulated again. I mean, here we were demonstrating on the streets to remove Hariri and his cronies. And now we're back to square one. Nothing has changed. I mean, actually, things have gotten worse and worse. So we can't accept that.
ما بنقبل كلهم يعني كلهم لاخر نفس. انا ما تقوصت 6 مرات وتبهدلت كرمال هلا تصير القصه يرجعوا طبيعي كلهم مثل ما كانوا وما صار شيء يعني شو هالقصه.
1 year on, people were back on the streets, continuing to call for the removal of the political oligarchs. But there was no doubt the numbers were down on the year before. The wind had been taken out of their sails, and some people just couldn't take it anymore and were abandoning the country.
تعمل من لبنان بس ما إلا ما يتغيروا كلهم يروحوا كلياتهم وهن كلهم ما بيروحوا ما حدا فينا يسلم ما بيروحوا هن نحن بنروح وأنا رايح أنا رايح ليكي أنا جزت 3 وتكت هيك معي وأنا هلا يعني رايح كيف بدي اقول لك مقهور زعلان اول شيء زعلان على حالي زعلان على لبنان زعلان على حالي انه حاترك بلدي اللي تربيت فيه صار عمري 22 سنه وانا لهلا بعدني فيه انا لهلا ماني عامل شيء فيه.
Even friends like Omar and Hala were making plans to leave.
The future is it's uncertain, to be honest. It's a really big hit that we've taken. The explosion was the last nail in the coffin that we were just hanging on, and that just kind of really blew us out on all levels, emotionally, economically.
أنا بيتي على الأرض down to ashes. شغلي تكسر، شغل جوزي تكسر. طب بس أنا عم بدفع حق شو؟ طب حدا يقول لي أنا شو عم يطلع لي بالمقابل؟
We're looking for alternative location to move somewhere where we can continue coming in and out of Beirut. It's very hard to depend on Lebanon and trust the economy and trust what's happening here.
But other friends like Tony were keeping the faith.
أكيد عندي إيمان بالثورة وهذا الإيمان ما حيموت.
لو ما أنا مؤمن بالثورة وإيمان مطلق ما كنت موجود هون.
عندي إيمان كبير كبير ما بتتصور يا قدام لأنه أنا الثورة عطتني حياة حلوة.
الثورة خلت الشعب يزيد إيمانه بوطنه. صارت عم تسعى الثورة إنه تخلي الشعب اللبناني كله يكون عنده طموح بالتغيير بطلنا ساكتين.
We have 2 choices, leave or stay in the revolution here.
We're just going to have a conversation.
Tell me.
I look at Lebanon today and I see there are many hurdles and complications and challenges. And I see the Lebanese wanting so much more for their country and believing there's possibility, but they're not moving forward.
I believe every city and every place has his problem also. بتصور ما في شعب مارق عليه قد ما مارق على الشعب اللبناني. وهيدا هو من الشباب اللبناني ولد قوة عند الشباب اللبناني وعند الرجال اللبناني وعند السيدة اللبنانية انه ولد قوة مش موجودة عند ولا جنسية تانية. وبقول لك القوة تبع لبنان هن الناس والشباب والعيال، هيدي قوة لبنان.
وسيمشي شعبي معي
Dear Lebanon, for many of us, you're too important and too special to let fail. That moment of your birth in November 1943 was special. It was different. You took your first steps as a new nation founded on uniting principles rather than lines of division. If we cannot win the argument for tolerance and diversity in Lebanon, we'll lose it everywhere. This is the front line for a much bigger battle. The real dividing line is not between Christianity and Islam or Sunni and Shia or East and West. It's between people who believe in coexistence and those who don't. That's why we've helped. It's in our interest too. We believed as strongly then as now in the idea of Lebanon. The thing is, Lebanon, do you still believe in that idea? This is a question only you can answer.
What is your dream for Lebanon?
My dream for Lebanon is to get a government pure, like when you go to the mountain Sanin and so on, you see the water coming from the sky, pure.
I would like Lebanon to be what it used to be 100 years ago.
I dream to have Lebanon back again, like in the 60s. Lebanon was the center of the Arabs' world. We were liberal in Lebanon. All the people who came from other countries, they enjoyed living and being free in Lebanon.
Restore the image that we grew up with, that glamorous image, and actually prove that to everyone that it's still there. Yeah. It just needs a bit of polish.
They used to call Lebanon as the pearl of the Middle East. And I want this dream to come true.
You know, this country is a dream. This is a dreamland.
To show the creativity of Lebanon and is to be strong. We Lebanese people, we're strong. We're very strong and we're stubborn.
I don't have a dream for Lebanon. They will live their dream. My dream for them is to live the way they want.
Where my kids can learn the real values and not the wrong values.
My dream is Lebanon have a good system and the education's coming good and don't have poverty.
My dream for Lebanon is to have a country where I can be proud that I raised my kids here, where I can look at them and tell them that I took the right decision by staying in Lebanon.
My dream is to have a new generation, people who believes in the country.
My dream is to see this young generation, either coming back or not leaving.
I dream that one day people will be more accepting to each other, toward each other, and just stop judging.
My dream for Lebanon is to be more united and to set aside religion. And everything will be solved. Everything.
It is not enough to say I'm Lebanese. I'd like to see that in your actions as a Lebanese, in your passion to protect this country, in your passion to contribute to building this country.
If we want to be Lebanese working for Lebanon, we have to give.
This country gave us a lot, and we have to give it back. So my dream is to fix it.
That Lebanon is loved by the Lebanese in all the meanings of it.
What is your dream for Lebanon?
To become a nation. To become a nation. Yeah.
My dream for Lebanon is very simple. For all of us Lebanese, inside and outside Lebanon, to remember our precious legacy by exercising our democratic right and voting. Voting for new people, voting for a new Lebanon, voting for a free and fair Lebanon.
Vous les avez élus, pas moi. Vous, peuple libanais. Vous voulez les changer, il faut les changer dans un cadre démocratique. Vous pouvez exiger des choses.
Elections are the only tool that we have to change the system and to show the anger of the people.
I don't know what it's going to take for the young population and those who never showed up the polls to show up again. They need to show up to make a change.
Do we want to become another narcotics, human trafficking state that puts kids in jail, or can we save the good in it and slowly attrition the bad? And I think that this is where we need to be thinking.
I wasn't interested in voting the last elections, and I think I stated it in Medina, because there wasn't change.
If people don't vote, we're going to end up having the same thugs back in governance again.
But now I feel if there's new independent names that are coming down, I would be more prompt to vote this time.
There are ample people that provide not an alternative to the status quo, but the only way forward out of the status quo. We gave the warlords a chance, a good 30 years, and now it's time to take responsibility and matters into our own hands.
هي أيام الشغلة بتوقف على صوت. فيمكن هذا الصوت يكون صوتي أنا. وإذا ما انتخبت أكيد رح ياخذ الفرق.
نحن فينا نرجع نعيد انتخابات نجيب عالم مثقفة، عالم متعلمة، عالم غير مسيسة.
الانتخابات المبكرة هي أول حل، لأنه خلص يا منبرهن إنه نحن فينا نشيلهم ومنشيلهم بالانتخابات، يا عما ما في أمل.
بسيطة يعني قوتنا بوحدتنا.
We can't do it alone. People need to come out and vote. I would tell people not to be apathetic, especially people who are outside Lebanon. You have nothing to lose. So somebody was saying, I'm willing to stay and fight the fight. Please give me a chance. I think we would be very cruel in not letting them do that, particularly if we are privileged enough to have the chance to vote not under duress.
What is the biggest threat facing Lebanon today?
Itself. And the greatest hope for Lebanon today is its young people.
Do you believe that Lebanese have the power to determine their destiny?
I always say when I discuss this with my friends and they say there's no hope for Lebanon, I say if we say there's no hope for Lebanon, we are the 20 years old. Who will say there is hope? Who will act and who will do a step for that hope? There is definitely hope and we will change, and I truly believe that Lebanon will reach that point where it's going to be independent, away from all these problems.
Do you all agree with her?
Yeah. Process has started. Yes, but it's time.
Yes, the process has started. And yes, it is time for all of us. Kilna, yani, kilna, to say enough. Enough. Enough.
So this guy is walking on the beach, okay, and he finds this lantern, and he rubs it, and the genie comes out, and he says, "I grant you 3 wishes." So the guy says, "I want pure water, I want electricity, I want no garbage." But those are not wishes. You should have those already. He said, "What we don't."